The stars stretched endlessly across the void, each one a bright pinprick in the darkness. The Vorath fleet glided through this endless blackness, their sleek ships humming with energy. To the Vorath, this was routine patrol. No new worlds, no surprises, only the quiet hum of engines and the cold glow of distant suns. They were confident in their strength. Their technology had dominated this region for generations, and no species had yet dared challenge them. Admiral Vorthek, the commander of the fleet, observed the navigation readouts with calm authority. The Vorath ships were arranged in their familiar wedge formation, ready for any encounter. "Maintain speed," he ordered, his voice steady and cold. "We have no reason to worry, but stay alert." The fleet moved in silence for hours, scanning the surrounding sectors. Then, without warning, a strange energy signature appeared on the sensors. It was massive, far larger than any single ship they had encountered. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat, and the readings were unlike anything Vorath engineers had catalogued. "What is that?" one of the junior officers whispered. He was young, barely a cycle into his service. His voice carried both awe and fear. Vorthek's eyes narrowed. "I do not know. Keep scanning. Prepare for inspection." He tapped a few controls, bringing the fleet into a cautious formation around the anomaly. Even the oldest and most confident of the Vorath engineers felt a flicker of uncertainty. The signal grew stronger as the fleet approached. The Vorath soon saw it. A single ship, enormous, silent, and gleaming in the starlight. It was nothing like their designs. Its hull was smooth, seamless, and impossibly large. The energy readings from the ship were immense, enough to power a small planet. Vorthek's clawed hand hovered over the communication console. "Attempt contact. Use the standard greeting. Identify ourselves, but prepare weapons." The officers obeyed. A series of tones and signals were transmitted, the usual way Vorath announced themselves to newcomers. The signal bounced silently across the void, but the humans, because the crew now realized they were observing humans, responded in clear, calm speech. "Greetings. We are the crew of SS Resolute. We mean no harm." The words were simple, almost casual, yet they carried a confidence that the Vorath could not ignore. Silence fell over the fleet. No species had ever responded like this. The words were polite, but there was no fear. No hesitation. The human voice seemed to radiate calm authority, as though the ship itself exuded power. Vorthek leaned closer to the console, his antennae twitching nervously. "Explain," he demanded. "Who are they? What is their origin?" The officers shook their heads. "We have no record of any species with this signature, Admiral. Their energy output is off the charts." Vorthek's mind raced. The Vorath were proud, almost arrogant. They had believed themselves unmatched. But now, staring at the readings, they began to realize that these humans might be something entirely different. "Raise shields," Vorthek commanded. "Prepare weapons, but do not fire yet. I want to see what they do." The human ship remained perfectly still, not raising shields aggressively, not firing, not moving. Its calm presence was unnerving. The Vorath ships, in contrast, glimmered with defensive energy, their engines ready to leap into evasive maneuvers. Hours passed. The human crew remained silent and steady. Then, slowly, the ship shifted. Its massive engines hummed as it rotated slightly, revealing a surface that shimmered like liquid metal. Vorthek's sensors struggled to understand it. The humans were not merely big. They were advanced in ways that the Vorath could not measure. "Admiral," one officer said, voice trembling, "they are not like any fleet we have faced. Their ship could destroy this entire sector with a single strike." Vorthek clenched his claws around the console. He had felt confident only moments ago. Now, uncertainty gnawed at him. The humans were not showing aggression, but their power was undeniable. And that, Vorthek realized, was worse than aggression. "Scan for weapons," Vorthek ordered. "We need full readouts, every system, everything." The sensors whirred, trying to analyze the alien ship. What they detected was staggering. The weapons systems were far more advanced than anything the Vorath had ever built. Energy reserves exceeded their largest capital ships by a factor of 10. Shields were nearly impenetrable. And yet, despite this overwhelming potential, the humans did not show hostility. "Impossible," Vorthek muttered. "No species would possess this power and remain calm. They must be bluffing." But the readings did not lie. The humans were not bluffing. A moment of tense silence fell over the fleet. Then, unexpectedly, a small panel on the human ship opened, releasing a low pulse into space. Sensors across the Vorath fleet detected it immediately. Energy readings spiked as a wave of power washed over the surrounding area. Even the largest Vorath engines trembled under the force. The fleet staggered in formation. Ships shuddered. Some of the junior officers gasped. They had never seen anything like it. Vorthek's voice was a mixture of disbelief and anger. "What is that? Explain." "Unknown, Admiral," the officer replied, checking readouts frantically. "It is beyond our calculations. The energy alone." Vorthek slammed his claw onto the console. "Enough. We need to know their intent. Open communications again, now." The human voice came through again, calm and firm. "We mean no harm. We are explorers and protectors. We wish only to observe and understand." The simplicity of the words struck the Vorath. No demands. No threats. No arrogance. Only a quiet confidence that the humans would not be intimidated. And yet, at the same time, it was clear. If the humans wanted, they could destroy every ship in the fleet without effort. Vorthek took a deep breath. Pride and caution warred inside him. He had spent cycles studying the galaxy, training to be the strongest commander. And now, for the first time, he felt doubt. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Vorthek ordered. "But do not engage. Keep your formations tight. Let us see what they do next." The human ship, however, did nothing. It hovered silently, its massive hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Its presence alone radiated a quiet authority, as though it knew exactly what it was capable of, and yet chose restraint. The hours dragged on. The Vorath fleet could not stop scanning, analyzing, calculating. Every data point pointed to the same conclusion. This species was unlike any they had ever encountered. Vorthek finally spoke, his voice low and tense. "This is no ordinary species. They are powerful. Too powerful. And they are calm. Too calm." A young officer dared to ask, "Admiral, should we attack?" Vorthek shook his head slowly. "No. Not yet. Observe. Learn. This species is dangerous, but not because it attacks. It is dangerous because it does not fear." For the first time, the Vorath fleet understood that they were not facing a typical enemy. They were facing a new kind of force. One that could not be measured by technology alone. One that combined intelligence, restraint, and overwhelming power. The human ship, SS Resolute, continued to hover silently. It did not threaten. It did not advance. Yet its presence filled the Vorath ships with a mix of awe and unease. For the first time, they felt small, not because of numbers but because of capability. Vorthek studied the human ship. He realized that this encounter would change everything. The galaxy itself would need to reconsider the humans, not as a species to be conquered, but as a force to be respected. The human captain's voice came through once more, calm and clear. "We are here to observe. We will not act without reason, but we ask that you consider your actions carefully. Violence is not necessary. Strength is not always shown in war." Vorthek's antennae twitched. The words were simple, yet they carried weight. The humans were not just powerful. They were wise in their use of that power. The thought struck him. A species like this could dominate the galaxy if it chose, yet it did not. As the fleet adjusted its formation, unsure of what to do next, Vorthek realized that this first contact would not be simple. It would set the tone for every encounter in the future, and for the first time he felt the weight of humility. The stars stretched endlessly across the void, and in that silence the humans and the Vorath stared at each other. One fleet was confident, proud, and experienced. The other was calm, powerful, and beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. And so, The first contact ended not with fire, but with a shared understanding of power, restraint, and the unknown. The stage was set. The galaxy had just witnessed the beginning of something that would change everything. The human ship turned slightly, its massive engines glowing faintly, hinting at the hidden power lying dormant within. The Vorath could only watch, uncertain, uneasy, and for the first time, impressed. The first meeting between humans and aliens had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars stretched endlessly around the Vorath fleet, but now the emptiness felt different. It was no longer the usual quiet void where they felt in control. Instead, there was a weight, a tension, and a silent pressure coming from the human ship hovering not far ahead. The Vorath could not stop scanning. Every sensor, every calculation pointed to the same impossible conclusion. The humans were far stronger than they had imagined. Admiral Vorthek stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Krithar. His claws tapped the console nervously. "All readings are off the charts," he said. "Their energy output. It is beyond anything we know. Engines, shields, weapons. Every system is unlike ours. Prepare for a full diagnostic. We need answers." The junior officer who had first detected the anomaly blinked rapidly. "Admiral, their ship, it doesn't just have power. It seems controlled. Almost like it thinks for itself." Vorthek's antennae twitched. Nonsense. No machine thinks. But if they can manage that level of energy with precision, they are dangerous. The human ship, the SS Resolute, rotated slowly, its surface reflecting the distant light of nearby stars. Then, without warning, it fired a single beam toward a large asteroid that floated silently near the fleet. The beam struck with immense force, and in an instant, the asteroid shattered, sending debris tumbling across space. The shock wave rattled the Vorath ships. Sensors screamed, and even the largest warship of the fleet rocked from the energy pulse. Junior officers scrambled to their consoles, shouting numbers and warnings, trying to process the sheer magnitude of the strike. Vorthek's claws clenched tightly. What is that?" he muttered. "One strike, and it can destroy an asteroid of that size. Their weapons, they are hundreds of times stronger than ours." The humans did not follow with another attack. Instead, their ship hovered silently. It was a display, not aggression. Every movement was calculated, calm, and deliberate. The crew of the Krithar realized something even more frightening. The humans could destroy them all if they wanted to. And yet, they did not. "Signal them," Vorthek ordered. "Tell them we wish to know their intentions. Now." The humans responded immediately, their voice steady and clear over the comlink. "We have no wish to fight. We are observers. We only wish to understand, not to harm." The simplicity of the words struck the Vorath like a hammer. No species had ever combined immense strength with restraint. They were baffled. Some officers whispered among themselves. Others stared at the readings in silence. One thing was clear: the humans were not ordinary. Vorthek turned to his tactical officer. "What are our options?" The officer hesitated. "We could attack, Admiral, but I fear it would be futile. Even a coordinated strike might not harm their ship. And our fleet, it is small compared to what they can wield." Vorthek exhaled slowly. Pride battled caution within him. He had commanded fleets, led conquests, and crushed opposition. But now, for the first time, he faced a species that might outmatch him entirely. "Very well," Vorthek said. "Do not attack. Observe. Learn. Prepare for a demonstration." The humans seemed to anticipate this. Without warning, the SS Resolute activated a secondary energy array along its hull. The ship glowed faintly as shields and power systems surged. Then it fired a series of controlled energy blasts, each one hitting a different asteroid in the belt surrounding the fleet. Each strike shattered rock and sent debris flying, precise, controlled, and devastating. The Vorath officers were stunned. "Each shot is perfect," one whispered. "They are not wasting energy. They are practicing, or showing us exactly what they can do." Vorthek's claws scraped across the console. "Yes, They are showing power without violence. A lesson, perhaps? The junior officer spoke up, his voice shaking. Admiral, they could annihilate our entire fleet. One strike each, and we would be nothing. Vorthek nodded slowly. Yes, but notice, they have not fired on us. They could, but they chose not to. This is not recklessness. It is control. The human captain spoke again, calmly. You see our power. We do not use it unless necessary. Strength without control is meaningless. We protect, we observe, and we act only when required. The words carried weight. They were simple, but they were full of meaning. The Vorath began to understand that the humans were not merely warriors. They were strategists, philosophers, and guardians. Their power was not for conquest. It was a tool for survival and protection. Vorthek studied the humans silently. Pride and fear battled within him. He had led attacks across star systems, and yet here he was, facing a species that could obliterate his fleet in moments. And they were calm. They were confident. And they were patient. The humans made no further display for several hours. They allowed the Vorath fleet to approach cautiously, scanning, probing, analyzing every system of the massive ship. And yet, every attempt to intimidate or trick the humans failed. They were not reactive. They were deliberate, measured, and always in control. One of the Vorath engineers finally spoke. Admiral, it is not just the weapons, their shields, their engines, even their sensors are beyond anything we know. One ship could challenge an entire armada. Vorthek exhaled, slowly nodding. It seems we have underestimated the humans. Entire fleets, entire systems could be at their mercy if provoked. The crew of the Crather exchanged uneasy looks. Their confidence had been shattered. The humans had not fired upon them, yet the impression of power was overwhelming. Then, unexpectedly, a second human ship emerged from a hidden jump point, its engines flaring softly. Sensors immediately detected another massive energy signature. This was not a single vessel, it was a fleet. And it was only the beginning. Vorthek's antennae twitched. Another ship? How many do they have? The tactical officer shook his head. Unknown, Admiral, but even one more ship like the first would double their firepower. We cannot risk engagement. Not now. The humans did not pursue aggression. Their presence alone communicated a message. We have the power, and we will act if necessary, but we choose not to act without reason. Vorthek realized that this encounter was already changing the Vorath. Pride had been replaced with respect. Fear mingled with awe. The humans were rewriting the rules of interaction in the galaxy. A single ship, or even a small fleet, could now influence the decisions of an entire alien species. One of the junior officers whispered, almost to herself, "They are different. Nothing we know compares to them. They are beyond our understanding." Vorthek said nothing. He knew it was true. The humans' combination of strength, intelligence, and restraint was unprecedented. They were a species that could dominate, yet they chose to observe and protect rather than destroy. The human captain's voice came again over the comlink, calm, steady, and measured. We do not wish to fight. We wish to understand. We have seen enough aggression in the galaxy. Power is not a prize. It is a responsibility. The words resonated through the fleet. Even the most hardened soldiers felt the weight of them. The humans were not just strong, they were wise. And that wisdom, combined with their unimaginable strength, made them the most formidable species the Vorath had ever encountered. The stars seemed to hold their breath as the two fleets floated in silent observation. The humans had displayed power, and the Vorath had witnessed it fully. No words could convey the magnitude of what they had just seen. For the first time, the Vorath realized that raw numbers of ships or weapons, meant nothing against discipline, intelligence, and control. Vorthek finally spoke, voice low and cautious. Prepare for analysis. Every system, every function, every movement. We must understand them before we consider anything further. They are extraordinary. The humans continued their silent observation. No additional strikes, no threats. Just quiet, overwhelming power. It was a lesson in restraint and strategy, and the Vorath would not forget it. As the hours passed, the Vorath began to adjust their formation, moving more cautiously. They realized that they could not rely on arrogance or force. The humans had rewritten the rules of engagement simply by existing. Their presence alone was a warning and a lesson. For the first time in generations, the Vorath felt something they had never felt before: uncertainty. Not because of fear of loss, but because of respect for a species that combined unmatched power with intelligence and self-control. The human ship, SS Resolute, rotated slowly, its massive hull gleaming. Its engines hummed faintly, a reminder that all this power lay dormant, controlled, and precise. It was a silent promise. Humans were strong, and they knew exactly how to use their strength. And in that silence, Admiral Vorthek understood a truth he could not ignore. The humans had changed the galaxy forever. The first contact was no longer simple observation. It had become a lesson in humility, power, and restraint. The Vorath would think twice before acting aggressively. They would remember this day for the rest of their lives. And somewhere, deep within the SS Resolute, the humans prepared for the next step, knowing that their presence alone had already shifted the balance of the stars. The Vorath fleet drifted silently through the dark void, their sleek ships gleaming faintly under the light of distant stars. Inside the command bridge of Admiral Vorthek's flagship, the Krythar, tension hung thick in the air. Sensors had long since confirmed the unimaginable strength of the human's ship, the SS Resolute, and the realization had unsettled every officer aboard. Vorthek's claws rested heavily on the console. He had led fleets into countless battles, but now he faced something entirely different. A species that could crush his entire armada with a single strike, yet chose restraint. Pride and fear battled within him. He could not attack, yet he could not retreat without losing face among his officers. "What are our options?" asked the tactical officer. His voice was low, almost hesitant. "We cannot challenge them directly. Even one ship could destroy us." Vorthek shook his head. "No. Direct attack is impossible, but perhaps there is a way to test them, to understand their intentions fully." The humans, observing silently, seemed to anticipate his thoughts. Over the comm link, the calm, steady voice of the captain of the SS Resolute spoke. "We understand your concern. If you wish, we can conduct a simulation, a test of strategy and skill. No harm will come to your fleet." The Vorath officers exchanged uneasy glances. A test? To them, it was audacious. Why would a species so powerful offer a chance for the aliens to act without fear of annihilation? But curiosity and pride overcame caution. They agreed. "Very well," Vorthek said finally. "We will participate, but we act with honor and caution." A small portion of the Vorath fleet separated from the main armada and moved into a neutral zone, a region of empty space surrounded by floating asteroids. The humans followed, their massive ships moving with unmatched precision. The SS Resolute and two smaller human vessels took positions that formed a triangular formation, their engines glowing faintly, hinting at the immense energy contained within. "Prepare for engagement," Vorthek ordered. "But remember, this is a simulation, test, not attack." The human captain's voice came again, calm and unshaken. "Understood. We will act in accordance with the simulation rules. No lives will be lost." The simulation began. The Vorath ships advanced first, moving in swift, calculated formations. Their goal was simple: to test the humans' reaction, to see if they could defend and counterattack. But as the first attack wave approached, the humans responded with incredible speed and precision. The SS Resolute moved smoothly, anticipating every maneuver. Its weapons fired not wildly, but with exact targeting, neutralizing asteroid cover and intercepting minor attacks without overextending. The smaller human vessels moved as extensions of the main ship, almost as if the fleet itself was thinking as one entity. One Vorath ship broke formation in a reckless attempt to strike. Its energy beams were deflected effortlessly by a calculated shield adjustment from the SS Resolute. The ship's engines flared, a warning pulse knocking it harmlessly away from the main formation. The aliens stared in disbelief. They anticipated our attack, one junior officer exclaimed. They knew we would break formation before we did. Vorthek's antennae twitched, a sign of both astonishment and frustration. Indeed, they are not only powerful, they are clever. They anticipate, adapt, and control. This is extraordinary. As the simulation progressed, every attempt by the Vorath fleet was countered with equal measure. The humans did not destroy ships, they disabled and restrained. Minor strikes were absorbed or redirected, with no overkill, no unnecessary force. It was not just power, it was control, strategy, and discipline in its purest form. Admiral Vorthek felt a mixture of pride and fear. His officers had trained for years in tactics, strategy, and combat. Yet here, a single species with fewer numbers, fewer ships, and yet overwhelming technology had made their experience almost irrelevant. Every maneuver he thought would work had been anticipated. Every strategy had a counter. Observe closely, Vorthek said quietly to his officers. Notice how they do not overreact. Every action is deliberate. They have the capability to destroy, but they choose to restrain. That is strength. True strength. The junior officer continued watching, awestruck. They could destroy us all right now, Admiral. We wouldn't even see it coming. Yes, Vorthek replied, but that is not their choice. They are not reckless. They are disciplined. That is the lesson we must learn. The simulation reached its climax when the Vorath fleet attempted a coordinated maneuver to surround the SS Resolute. The human ship responded with calm precision. Minor energy pulses disrupted the movement of the surrounding ships without causing destruction. One of the Vorath ships tried to break free aggressively, but was gently pushed back by a field of energy that left it unharmed, yet immobilized temporarily. The entire fleet observed silently. Even the most hardened soldiers and engineers could not help but feel a sense of awe. The humans had shown power beyond imagination and restraint beyond understanding. Vorthek realized a hard truth. Any species that combined this level of strength with discipline could change the balance of the galaxy. The humans were not conquerors, yet if provoked, they could dominate completely. And yet they chose not to dominate. The simulation ended. No ships were destroyed, no lives lost. Yet the Vorath officers were shaken. They had witnessed a new definition of power, one that was controlled, intelligent, and ethical. Admiral, one officer said cautiously, they are unlike any species we have faced, not just in power, but in thought. They do not act out of fear, greed, or pride. They act with purpose. They are remarkable. Vorthek nodded slowly, still processing what he had seen. Yes, and that is why they are dangerous. Not because they attack, but because they do not need to attack. Their strength alone is a lesson to all who would challenge them. The SS Resolute rotated slowly, its hull glowing faintly in the distant starlight. It was a silent reminder of the humans' capabilities. Vorthek realized that this single ship, or this single fleet, had changed the Vorath's perception of the universe in moments. A species that could destroy entire fleets with precision, yet chose restraint, demanded respect. The human captain spoke once more, calm and clear. You have seen our capabilities. We do not seek conflict. We protect, we observe, and we act only when necessary. Remember this. True strength is measured not by destruction, but by control, wisdom, and responsibility. The words resonated through the Vorath fleet. Pride and arrogance had been replaced by humility and respect. They began to understand something fundamental. The galaxy was no longer predictable. New rules had been set, not by treaties, not by alliances, but by the very presence of a species unlike any other. Vorthek turned to his officers, his voice steady but thoughtful. We must learn from this. Every system, every strategy, every weapon of ours is now insufficient alone. We must adapt, or we will fall behind. This species, Humans. They have shown us a power beyond reckoning, and they have done so without aggression. Even the junior officers who had entered this encounter full of confidence nodded quietly. They realized that victory in the traditional sense was no longer the goal. Survival and respect required understanding this new species. A small debate broke out among the Vorath fleet commanders. Some suggested retreat, to study the humans from a distance. Others, though shaken, argued that understanding them required continued engagement. Vorthek listened carefully, then spoke. "We do not attack, we do not retreat blindly. We observe, we learn. This is not the time for arrogance. This is the time for understanding. Every action we take now will define the future of our species." The human fleet remained silent after that, hovering with quiet authority. The simulation had ended, yet the impression of power lingered in every ship, every officer, and every mind of the Vorath fleet. The humans had tested their courage, and in doing so, had reshaped their understanding of what it meant to be strong. Hours later, as both fleets maintained a cautious distance, Vorthek reflected on the events. For the first time in his life, he felt uncertain and humbled. A species could be dominant, powerful, and disciplined all at once, and it had just arrived in their sector. The galaxy had changed. The rules of warfare, strategy, and power were no longer the same. And the humans? They continued to observe, to move with purpose, and to maintain restraint. Their presence alone was a warning, a lesson in courage, intelligence, and discipline, and the Vorath would not forget it. The stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the encounter. For the first time, the Vorath understood that true power was not measured by destruction alone, but by the wisdom and control to wield it responsibly. As the SS Resolute rotated slightly, preparing to leave the asteroid field, Vorthek whispered to himself, almost reverently, "This is a species we cannot challenge. Not yet. And perhaps we should not. They are extraordinary." The first encounter had become a test of courage, strategy, and humility. The humans had passed not by destroying their enemies, but by showing restraint and intelligence far beyond the Vorath's understanding. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the humans prepared for the next phase, knowing that their example had already changed the course of the galaxy. The void of space stretched endlessly, calm and silent. But beneath that quiet surface, tension and curiosity ran deep in the Vorath fleet. Admiral Vorthek's flagship, the Krythar, glided cautiously among the smaller ships, each crew member watching the distant glow of the human fleet. They had seen the humans' power. They had witnessed the precision, discipline, and restraint that came with it. And now, the reality of their presence had sunk in. This was a species unlike any other in the galaxy. Vorthek's antennae twitched as he studied the SS Resolute. Its massive hull reflected starlight, and its engines pulsed faintly, a subtle reminder of the latent strength contained within. The humans had tested the Vorath fleet, demonstrated power, and restrained themselves, all without harming a single ship. It was a display of strategy and intelligence, the kind the Vorath had never encountered. "Admiral," one of the officers said quietly, "they could destroy us all at any moment, yet they do not. Why?" Vorthek's eyes narrowed. "Because, young one, true strength is not measured by destruction alone. They act with purpose, control, and wisdom. And that terrifies me more than any weapon could." For hours, the two fleets maintained a cautious distance. The humans had made no aggressive moves beyond the earlier simulation. But now, Vorthek knew it was time to seek a direct dialogue, a chance to understand these newcomers fully. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Formally request a meeting. Let us speak directly with the human captain." The human voice responded quickly, calm and measured. "We are ready to communicate. Approach carefully. No threat will be made." Vorthek signaled a small delegation of Vorath ships to move forward. Their weapons were powered down, a gesture of respect and curiosity. The humans matched their movement, adjusting positions to allow for a safe meeting. The atmosphere was tense, every movement deliberate. Both species were aware of the stakes. A single misstep could trigger disaster. The meeting zone was a neutral area near a massive gas giant, its swirling clouds glowing faintly under the light of nearby stars. Both fleets stopped, holding positions. Vorthek activated the comm link, his voice steady but wary. "Captain of the SS Resolute, we request a formal meeting. We wish to understand your species, your intentions, and your capabilities." The human captain's voice replied calmly. "We welcome the opportunity. Our goal is simple: to observe, to learn, and to establish understanding. We have no desire for conflict." Vorthek hesitated, studying the massive ship. Even though they were communicating peacefully, he could feel the humans' presence like a pulse in the void, a reminder that their strength was unmatched. "We have seen your power," he admitted. "It is unlike anything in our experience. We have never encountered a species capable of such control and precision." "Power without control is dangerous," the human captain said. "We have seen too many conflicts, too many wars. Strength is only meaningful when it is combined with restraint and wisdom. That is how we survive and why we exist." The words resonated in the Vorath officers' minds. For generations, they had relied on strength, numbers, and intimidation. The humans had demonstrated that true dominance required more than weapons. It required discipline, intelligence, and purpose. One of the Vorath scientists spoke cautiously. "You are not like other species. Your ships, your tactics, even your patience are unprecedented. How did you develop such capability?" The human captain's reply was simple. "Through experience, observation, and understanding. We have learned that power alone is dangerous without knowledge and control. Every decision is measured. Every action is deliberate." Vorthek listened carefully. He realized that this species was teaching them a lesson, not through threat or force, but through example. Humans were demonstrating that their dominance came not from aggression, but from intelligence, strategy, and self-discipline. "Admiral Vorthek," the human captain continued, "we do not seek conflict, but know this. If any species threatens the innocent, if anyone attempts unprovoked aggression, we will respond. Our response will be decisive, precise, and overwhelming, but always measured. We do not act recklessly." The words carried a warning, calm yet unmistakable. The Vorath fleet felt the weight of it. Even the most ambitious commanders understood that provocation was not an option. The human's power alone made that clear. Vorthek exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and respect passing over him. "We understand. Your restraint and your warning are noted. We will consider our actions carefully. Perhaps we have judged the galaxy too quickly." The atmosphere in the meeting zone shifted subtly. The Vorath fleet had entered expecting conflict or negotiation under threat. Instead, they found wisdom and power combined. It was humbling. It was enlightening. And it was, in many ways, inspiring. Hours passed. The fleets maintained a cautious watch. Vorthek and his officers continued to speak with the human delegation. Discussions ranged from strategy and tactics to culture and philosophy. The humans shared only what they wished to reveal, but each word reinforced the impression of intelligence, discipline, and foresight. "It is remarkable," whispered one officer. "They do not flaunt their strength. They do not seek dominance. And yet, every word, every movement, it reminds us that we are small in comparison." Vorthek nodded slowly. "Yes. This is a species that could rule entire systems if it chose, and yet it does not. That is, perhaps the most important lesson of all." The human captain concluded the meeting with calm authority. "We have met many species, some aggressive, some cautious. But we have not come to conquer. We have come to show that strength paired with wisdom is the greatest power in the galaxy. Remember this, and you will thrive. Ignore it, and you may learn the hard way." Vorthek reflected on the statement. It was both a lesson and a warning. The humans had demonstrated that dominance was not simply about weapons or numbers. It was about intelligence, control, and responsibility. When the formal communication ended, the humans began to slowly leave the area. their massive ships gliding through space with silent authority. The Vorath watched, still processing the enormity of what they had witnessed. The galaxy had changed. Their assumptions, their pride, and their strategies all had been challenged. For Vorthek, the encounter was personal. He had commanded fleets, won countless battles, and believed himself unmatched. But now he understood that humans were different. They were disciplined, intelligent, and overwhelmingly powerful, and they had earned respect without firing a shot. "Prepare to return to base," Vorthek ordered. "Report every detail. Every officer, every engineer, every crew member must understand what we have learned. Humans are not like other species. They are extraordinary." The fleet slowly moved away, but the memory of the humans' presence lingered. The simulation, the test of courage, and the lessons shared in dialogue would be remembered for generations. The Vorath had learned that power alone was meaningless without wisdom, control, and ethics. In the distant void, the humans watched silently as the Vorath departed. They had made no threats beyond what was necessary, no acts of aggression beyond the simulation, yet their message was clear. Strength carries responsibility, and restraint is the highest form of power. The SS Resolute rotated slightly, preparing to leave the sector, its massive hull glinting faintly in starlight. It had demonstrated the capabilities of humans, reshaping the understanding of what a species could achieve. It had tested courage, shared knowledge, and left a permanent impression. As the humans departed, Vorthek remained on the bridge, staring into the void. His officers looked to him, silent and thoughtful. Finally, he spoke. "We have seen what we must. Humans are not conquerors. They are protectors, strategists, and a force that will shape the galaxy. Let us honor this encounter and learn from it. Perhaps one day, we will be ready to meet them again, not as rivals, but as equals in understanding." The stars stretched endlessly, calm witnesses to the first meeting of humans and aliens. One fleet departed, humbled and wiser. The other continued its journey, powerful, disciplined, and ready for the challenges of the universe. The galaxy had changed forever, and the humans had left their mark, not through war, but through strength, wisdom, and restraint. And in that moment, the Vorath knew a truth they would never forget. The humans had shown that true power is measured not by destruction, but by control, knowledge, and the courage to wield it responsibly. The SS Resolute vanished into the distant stars, leaving the Vorath fleet to ponder the future. And as the galaxy shifted silently around them, one thing was certain: the humans were now a force to be respected, feared if provoked, and remembered by all who encountered them. The encounter had ended, but the lesson endured. Humanity had proven itself, not by aggression, not by conquest, but by showing that power, discipline, and wisdom together define the strongest species in the universe. The stars shone brightly over the void, silent witnesses to the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history.